Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. Good episode today. This is Tony Molina. Been a fan of Tony's music for, let's see here, 8 years, 9 years, something like that. I don't know why I feel like I have to prove my bona fides here in the intro, as if someone is there keeping track on some wiki of my indie cred or whatever. I knew Tony back in the... Anyway. Oh boy. You can already hear the... I talked to Jerry Stahl today, a credible author and writer, and so we talked a lot about self-loathing, both being Jews from Pennsylvania and where the self-loathing is thick for us, and so that's stuck in my head a little bit. But anyway, enough of that, why don't I read you Tony's bio right now, if you don't know who he is. Constantly juggling hardcore and pop projects, veteran Bay Area musician Tony Molina has won over fans in both camps. Since 2002, Molina has played in several bands, including Dystrophy, Ovens, Lifetime Problems, Caged Animal, Violent Change, as well as his own solo work, which lives somewhere between early Weezer and Guided by Voices. These albums have been released on labels like Matador and Slumberland, and his most recent, In the Fade, came out in early August on Run 4 cover, and as all his albums are, it is great. So yeah, this is a cool episode. Tony kind of talks me through the Bay Area music scene from when his parents were in it in the 60s and 70s up to now. A lot of stuff I didn't know. And we also got into the Pittsburgh music scene, where I came up in, because he had played there a lot. And we talked a lot about Pittsburgh punk, which I still hold dear in my heart. So I hope you like this. Tony's a great guy. And if you do, why not check out other episodes of Beginnings? Why not subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast from? Got some great episodes coming up. I'll talk about them in a second. But if you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, at Andy Beckerman. Twitter for stupid jokes, still trying to pretend like it is 2012. And instead of screaming my pain onto the internet, I'm still trying to just write some dumb jokes. Instagram, if you want to see pictures of my wife and my pets. So that's basically what that is. And like I said, we got some great episodes coming up. Like I said, talked to Jerry Stahl, who wrote Permanent Midnight, which you might know if you've read it or if you saw the movie that Ben Stiller made based on it, and also his new memoir 999 about his travels through Germany on a Holocaust bus tour. So that was great. What else is coming up? Robin Holcomb, who's one of the kind of progenitors of the New York downtown art scene. Tara Jane O'Neill, incredible musician from the Louisville indie rock scene of the 90s. Bill Orcutt, Homeboy Sandman. Those were great. So stay tuned for those. But for now, let's talk to Tony. I will tell you this just as context. My wife and I were at a party yesterday with our dog. She's like a little 10-pound Maltese Terrier mix we got at a shelter. And this other dog that's like twice her size, like snapped and attacked her. And
oh my God. No, dude.
Yeah. And like, I don't know what it's like up in the Bay Area, but like here there's like a severe vet shortage. And so you basically, like, if there's an emergency after like normal vet hours, this is like maybe around 6 p.m., you basically there's a list of vet hospitals and you just have to call every one of them to see if any of them have space. And we ended up having to drive all the way out to the valley, which is like, I don't know, 35 minutes away, because that was the only vet hospital that had any space. And the wait time was like 2 to 3 hours anyway. She's fine. Mabel's fine. Good. The dog bit her, but they like flushed the wound and they gave her antibiotics. But like that was my entire evening yesterday was my wife and I driving out to the suburbs to make sure our dog was okay.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah. My ex-girlfriend, she has a small dog and I took care of him for years. And yeah, big dogs, man, they hate the little dogs for some reason. They're always trying to fucking flex all the time. I hate it, man. Like Well, it's weird because I was, I never grew up with like animals in the house. So,
Yeah.
um, her dog Charlie was basically like my first dog, and I just became like a parent, and and I like to this day I hate big dogs because it's just all, the experiences of people not like, everyone thinks that their dog is great, so they'll let their dog off, and then it'll attack a little dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I have like PTSD from that shit, man. Like, because it's like my little guy, it's like my son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Especially like my wife and I don't want kids. So
yeah,
so this is it. This is the level of responsibility we are comfortable with. And even that is much higher than we thought we would be dealing with when we got a dog. We didn't think it would be like constant vet visits because we were so like, is this okay? She jumped off the couch weird. Is this now she whimpered this one time and we
yeah,
run to the vet.
yeah, for sure.
I don't. Is that like what parents? I mean, I don't know. Do parents deal with that? How do they like deal with that for like 18 years? Not just 18 years, for the rest of their lives.
Right, right. Yeah, it's crazy. I know. And especially getting older, like all my best friends are like having kids now, and it's just like, man, I don't know how you guys do this. Technically, like being Latino, I'm supposed to have like 5 by now or something like that, because I'm 37. But yeah, I don't know.
Is that something you like aspire to at all? Like,
It's never been something. I feel like for me, like first of all, I'd have to be in probably married,
Mhm.
and then that's like the next thing you do when you're married. But I like, so it's just, I don't know. It's and definitely if like you're gonna bring a kid into this world, you gotta be prepared for that shit. You know what I mean? And you have to be willing to like give up everything. Like you can't hang out with the homies anymore. You know what I mean? Like, like so I don't know. It's yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, maybe in the future, but we are getting older and stuff. So, the clock's ticking a little bit, but I don't know, man. I don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't actually really think about it either. I don't feel like my dad at the age I'm at had 2 kids already, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't fathom that. I can't fathom the idea of what that, because it's you were saying this. I don't think you said exactly like this, but like it's sacrifice. You do have to
Yeah.
sacrifice a part of your life
Yeah.
to these creatures you created,
Right.
and I don't know if I'm ready to do that.
Exactly.
Like I'm sure this is the same thing with you, but like I put a lot of my energy into making things,
Yeah. Me
and
too.
that energy would have to go into these human beings as opposed to like a script or something.
Right. Right.
So, like, what was the household you grew up in? I was trying to find information about you, and it's very sparse. It's just like dumb questions about like, so you got short songs or some shit like that. And I was
Right.
like,
Right.
Jesus.
Right. Yeah. So, my family's from San Francisco,
Mhm.
and that's where I was born, and I lived there until about I was maybe 5, and so I was born in '84, Mount Zion Hospital, Divisadero and Pine, and then we lived in the city in a few different places. I went to the Mission YMCA for preschool, and then I went to St. Paul's for kindergarten, and then my dad used to be a UPS driver, and his route was in the peninsula.
Mhm.
And he liked it out in the peninsula, and I think he wanted to get out of the city. So we moved out to the peninsula. We call it the West Bay. And
Okay.
yeah, it's San Mateo County specifically. In the town we moved out to was Millbrae, and that's like where I mostly grew up from. Like, I want to say we moved there probably like 90, and I was there until I graduated high school.
Okay.
Yeah. And so yeah, Bay
Was
Area
that
dude, man.
was that like the beginning of San Francisco turning into like a tech bro wonderland?
I mean, uh well, it's weird because I think there was several tech booms that we lived through. There was like a .com boom. There was like, I don't know, man. There's been I mean, the way it is now is straight up the most psycho shit in the world. And I don't I don't think it was that bad um, back then, but I think I lived through at least three tech boom type situations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Silicon Valley is in the West Bay, like it's in San Mateo County. So I mean, that shit is yeah, that shit's a cancer, dude. Like
Yeah.
the fucking worst shit in the fucking world. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
worst people you'll ever meet in your life, too.
I I can imagine because just like seeing it from afar, it seems like it is just like just looking at someone like Elon Musk, who seems to be like an incredibly stupid, maybe not stupid, but like cunning, but very
Yeah,
like just like dumb.
yeah,
So I didn't
yeah.
want. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
go on.
no, no, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It is weird, like these people that don't know how to like do anything, like they don't know how to like order a beer at a bar, like right,
Yeah.
but they know how to manipulate everything. You know what
Right.
I mean? Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah. They can't like tie their own shoelaces, but they know how to operate a stock scam at a
yeah,
billion-dollar level.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that must be like you're living among that right now? Question mark.
So I live in Concord.
Okay.
That's the thing about I want to say about a lot of the real Bay natives that are from here. We get kicked out and moved around. It's just part of the deal when you're from here because of the gentrification, because of the tech shit and all that stuff, Um, so I live in Concord, which is like way far out East Bay, and like I'm from the city and I'm from the West Bay, so it's cool. It's still the Bay Area. It's a I like living out here because it's like an old town, very diverse. Um, and it's just Bay Area shit. Because the thing is, dude, is like when you're from here, so many of the people that are from here get pushed out. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So like the Central Valley or Sacramento or you know what I mean? There's like hella more probably San Francisco and Oakland people and in places like Fresno and Modesto and things like that. Stockton and Sacramento and stuff like that because everyone gets pushed out. You know, it's just it's a fucking horrible thing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. My wife and I hate Los Angeles. We just feel like it doesn't have any personality, but we've been to Sketchfest a couple times. And the minute we go into San Francisco or like the Bay Area, it's just like, oh, this place has personality. And I'm kind of curious if that's being diminished now that it's just like tech bros and it's pushing everyone to these other areas.
You can still find you know real Bay natives and real Bay people like here we're still here. um you know what I mean? You can say people talk all day that oh, the mission's gentrified, the mission's dead, blah blah blah. You can still get your ass beat in the mission, straight up. If you're looking for it, you could find it in 5 minutes, man, and that's real Frisco shit. um but I love Los Angeles. I think Los Angeles is a cultural hub of the United States. Like I think it's incredible. Like so much of my favorite music is from there, and true Los Angeles natives are the best people in the world. And
Yes,
it,
that part's
it,
true.
and that so I don't know. It's like when you said we don't like Los Angeles, I think you're probably more referring to like the how transplants come in and they kind of that kind of thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think there's anything more real in the world than a true LA native.
Yes, I think
Uh,
you're right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, so much of my favorite music. I mean, I grew up listening to grind and like, I mean, Terrorizer, that straight up Latino music from the streets of LA. You know what I mean? Like, excruciating terror. That's true LA native music. And so I don't know, man. Like, I just, I love cities and I love the culture of different cities and stuff like that. Especially in music and stuff like that. And yeah, man, we live in a gentrifier universe nowadays, and we gotta definitely protect our communities.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that we moved here. By the time we moved here, all of that culture had already been pushed to the edges. Like we got here and it was like very white everywhere we went.
Yeah.
And any kind of like actual culture was, like pushed to, San Pedro or something like that.
Yeah, I love Pedro, man. Pedro's a great town, man.
Well, I mean, the
Love
Minutemen are
Pedro.
from there.
Oh yeah, I know, man. I know. And Todd from FYP Recess Records. Hell yeah, man. I want to give a shout out to my boy Ethan, uh, San Pedro native. I also want to just give a shout out to the True LA. I want to give a shout out to my homies band Harm, LA Grindcore. I think they're the greatest band in the world. And yeah, man. So shout out to SoCal, man. I love it down there.
Yeah. So
yeah,
when you were growing up in the Bay Area, when you were growing up in Millbrae, like what was that town like?
it was a shitty suburb. I think the peninsula is a wonderful place, and that's where I found like my music community that it's still my whole life, right? But Millbrae specifically is kind of a shitty, very white, racist town, like super racist cops that used to beat our asses for no reason back in the day. Yep. And yeah, so I don't really have much love for Millbrae as much as I do for other towns in the West Bay, specifically like Daly City, San Bruno, South City, Redwood City all day. My homies in San Mateo. It was a really small town. There's like I don't know. It's the West Bay is basically comprised of all these small kind of suburban towns that are all right next to each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Millbrae is just not one of the good ones. The fucking pigs there are just fucking the worst people in the world, man. Just straight up racist, And
is it just that they're bored? I was just talking about this on another episode, but like I found like where I grew up in the suburbs that the cops were like angry about people just being out at all. Like they were angry at the skateboarders for skating, even though the skateboarders were probably like straight edge, not doing anything. And they just wanted people, they didn't care about like people drinking or doing drugs as long as they did in their parents' basement. But if you were out just playing, like my friends and I would just play outside, like at the high school, and they would like harass us and tell us to leave for no reason. We weren't doing anything wrong. It's just that they just want people to like just not be out. They want like they would if they could just kill everyone and just have like total peace. That's what they wanted, it seemed.
Yeah, I got my ass beat walking home from my friend's house once. I lived a few blocks from my friend's house. Pigs rolled up on me. I was maybe 16 years old, and they beat my ass for walking home. And for being brown, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'm Latino. Yeah, it was fucked up. That's the town, I was straight edge too at the time. They were like, "What's in your bag?" And I was like, I had like a Walkman and some tapes in there, and like they were like, "Is there drugs in your bag? Is there alcohol in your bag?" I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm straight edge, like, or whatever." And they still beat my ass anyways. Yeah, it's fucked up. So I don't really like that town.
Yeah,
and I don't really know what it's like now, because I think every time I go back to that area, which is not often, it seems pretty teched out. Everything's a little bit fancier than it used to be. And there's all these kind of new people that ain't from there that are there now. And so it's weird, because it's like the gentrification in the Bay Area is so wide that people are even moving to Millbrae and places like that, because they can't get into the city, mm-hmm. or whatever. And also, Silicon Valley is in West Bay. So, it's like close to there kind of thing.
Yeah. Was there any kind of repercussions for those cops, or was it just like they beat you up and that was that?
Oh,
I thought so.
No,
I just thought I would ask anyway.
Yeah.
I just figured.
Yeah.
You never know. Every once in a while, someone pays a penalty.
I don't think so, man.
Literally every once every 40 years, one cop pays a penalty.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know, man. Fuck pigs. Fuck pigs.
Yes, this is an ACAB household. But growing up there, was there anything fun that you did? Like what was your life like?
I started playing guitar when I was about 10 years old.
Mm.
My best friend to this day is my best friend. My friend Bo, he's like my oldest friend. We've been like, so I told you, like, my family, we moved from San Francisco to Millbrae, and I started first grade, and I met Bo first day of first grade, and we've been friends ever since. That was 1991. And he's the one who got me into rock music. Like, I used to listen to rap when I was a kid. And Dookie had just come out, and I was over at his house, and he played me Dookie, and he's like, "Yo, I'm learning how to play guitar. You should learn how to play guitar. We should start a band." And his dad also played guitar, and I just went home one day, and I told my parents I want a guitar. I listen to rock music now. I'm a rocker now, and yeah, and me and Bo, he was in all my bands with me, like my band Ovens. He's the
Yeah.
drummer. So it's like, yeah, it started back then for us when we started playing. And back then we're in elementary school, and we were into like Nirvana and Green Day, just like typical. Weezer Blue Album had come out around that time.
Yeah.
So we were big on that. And then as we got older, we got into like punk, like old punk, like we got into the Ramones and then Black Flag and Subhumans and all of like, the good shit. And then we got into metal super hard. So we were listening to like old Slayer, um, classic Metallica, like
Pantera.
or Megadeth. Yeah, we liked Pantera, but we were kind of more. I always loved Pantera, but um, we weren't as huge on them as like something like Slayer, Hell Awaits. You know what I mean? Like that was like our Bible, And we were into punk too. And then when we got into high school, we got into hardcore, and that's when we started playing like bands and putting out records and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of that was the same trajectory I was on, where it was like Nirvana and Green Day. But then I went from that to like Black Flag, Minor Threat.
Yeah.
And then from there to indie rock. So then into like Pavement and shit like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we went like, so yeah, for Minor Threat, after Minor Threat, it was like, I think I had that when I was 14. My brother's girlfriend had the CD, and I heard that, and I was like, this is bomb. And then I got the Year and 7 Inches CD, and I was like, oh shit. And that was kind of my introduction to hardcore. And then, I mean, shortly after that, dude, I was listening to Void. I was listening to Void when I was like 15, 16.
Yeah.
And then when we found like Void and stuff, because we had older friends in Millbrae, and they were into all the sick shit. So like by the time I was 16, I was getting schooled by my older friends, and they were my friend Mike Kaminsky, my friend Tom Knox, and my friend Charlie Ramon Duran. They just showed everything from like the Replacements to the Bad Brains to the Minutemen. You know what I mean? I was just getting schooled.
Yeah.
So we had that. We lucked out in our small town, because most of the people in the town that were in the rock in my town in Millbrae they were kind of like burnout, like fake hippie people. They just they were just into Sublime and shit, right? And I like Sublime, man. Sublime's great, but like but it's just like I just needed something more than that. I had to hear Damaged. You know what I mean? I had to hear, we're not like, I just think when you're 14 years old, you got to get that first Ramones album. You got to hear Black Flag Damage. You have to hear Slayer, like old Slayer. You know what I mean? That's like, you're at that age where it's time to, I mean, Sabbath,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. What was that music like doing for you, like emotionally at the time? Like, what was it helping you feel, or what was it helping you process?
I don't know. It just felt like everything I was ever looking for, I liked the heaviness of Sabbath, and I loved the thing about Sabbath is that they have melodic genius in their songs. And I've always been attracted to melody. Like that's what, and that's why I play pop music, you know what I mean? But I grew up like, on a Metallica record, there will be like a acoustic interlude that's like classical guitar. And I was always so much like attracted to that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's that stuff on Sabbath records. There's that stuff on like Ride the Lightning and Justice for All, and even like Megadeth, Peace Sells But Who's Buying. Like, there's really intricate melodic guitar parts on there that I was like really attracted to. And at the same time, I kind of so we grew up on Weezer, because the Blue Album came out right when we were at that age,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was always attracted to that because I thought it was heavy guitar, like heavy guitar, like it's like, like hearing and Nirvana too, like, so, I mean, Nirvana being one of my first favorite bands, when you get Bleach when you're like 10 years old.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, dude, I'm like, like you're getting prepped it preps you to hear the real underground music that came before it,
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bleach is totally like, from Bleach you go to Melvins, and from Melvins you go to fucking some later Black Flag stuff, the Flipper, Fang, you know what I mean? So they were like a perfect training wheels kind of band for heavy guitar,
Oh my God, Tony, you were literally like talking about everything like I did. It was literally that. It was Nirvana led me to everything that was in Seattle. So it was Mudhoney, Melvins, like
Yeah,
Flipper, like literally like anytime like Kurt Cobain, I saw him like wear a t-shirt of someone, I'm like, oh, I gotta check that out. So that's how I found Flipper and like
yeah,
all of that stuff. And you're exactly right. It is the exact combination of like heavy guitars plus great melodies. It's the same thing like what
yeah,
led me to Sabbath, right? Or like early
yeah,
Ozzy stuff, which is like that exact same combination.
yeah. And the cool thing about it was that it was heavy, but it was revolutionary in this way because it didn't have the machismo of a lot of heavy metal, because you're
Yeah.
coming out of the 80s and stuff. And I love heavy metal. Like, I'm a metalhead for sure. But I think uh the way Nirvana and the Melvins utilized like heavy ass guitars, but it's still like punk,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, that's how you get I Hate God, one of my favorite bands of all time. That's like
Uh,
direct lineage of that kind of sound.
yeah. Well, I think there's something interesting about like, and I've been talking about this over the last couple years, interviewing different people, but like my first political awakening was, I think, through music. Like there was already kind of like a precursor there,
Yeah,
just from like, I'm Jewish, and you learn about the Holocaust early on, and you start to get like understanding of like what the world is like,
yeah,
especially if you grow up. Like I was Jewish in a very Christian area, so I started
uh-huh,
to like, I already had a kind of idea, but the minute like Sonic Youth, Black Flag, especially like, I mean, this fucking city is run by pigs. Like the minute you
yeah,
hear like Police Story
yeah,
or something like that, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, this is the way yes, this makes sense to me. This is the way the world works. So yeah,
yeah,
Sonic Youth, Black Flag, Minor Threat, and then Nirvana is like this kind of like heavy music that is also like outs, because like we grew up with like hair metal, and hair metal's like super misogynistic, super
yeah,
like just like, I guess, apolitical if anything, but just like kind of still in there's this bro culture that surrounded it that never felt right to me. So the minute like you have the kind of like heaviness of Nirvana, but without that bro culture, you're
yeah.
like, oh, this makes sense to me, and then that sends you rocketing off in that direction. I'm wondering, was that the same kind of thing for you?
I think so. I mean, it was just cool because it was. I mean, it's just one of those things where you mentioned Sonic Youth, and I was 10 years old, and I went to the Blockbuster Video, and I rented Year That Punk Broke.
Yeah.
And I remember it starts with them playing Schizophrenia. So at 10 years old, I heard Schizophrenia, and I couldn't believe it. And it's because of Nirvana, right? It's I rented it, and it's one of those things where it's like, oh, dude, like I'm already being introduced to the underground, like I'm already being introduced to SST. You know what I mean? Like, and because when I was in high school, man, SST was my whole universe.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, honestly, to this day, SST is still my whole universe. That's the
Yeah, for
greatest
sure.
record label of all time. But yeah, no, but I definitely was. I just think it was so cool because it was so informed of punk ethics. And when like your favorite band is showing you the true, like real punk ethics and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It's like it's the best teacher. They were the best teacher, like Nirvana was, you know? And in Sonic Youth, man, it's just to this day, dude, I get chills when I hear Schizophrenia.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just absolute, just unreal. I think that's like got to be top 5 songs of the 80s.
Yeah, for sure. So like when you were growing up, did you have any of those precursors like I did that like kind of like already primed you to get the message of like punk?
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing about me is that, you know, Green Day came out of here, Rancid came out of here. So not only were we getting like the whole underground lessons from Nirvana, but we were also getting it direct from the scene here. You see what I'm saying? And so, and you know, because from Green Day, you get to hear about Gilman, and then you find out about Operation Ivy, and then you find out about fucking Lookout Records, and then you find out about fucking Neurosis, and then you know you kind of just you're seeing that lineage, and you're kind of doing your Bay Area punk history lesson with that stuff too. You know what I mean?
Did you have any lessons at home though that like what were your parents like when you were growing up?
So my parents are Mission District people, and they when they were young, they were really involved in the Mission like Latin rock scene. And my uncles had this band called Limbo in the early '70s, and it's 4 of my uncles were in this band, and they were playing shows with like Malo and El Chicano and Sapo and Tequila and all those bands from that time. So my family comes from that kind of lineage, that history of the San Francisco scene. And so my parents were always into that stuff, and they were into like Tower Power, just a lot of real Bay Area kind of stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so I was raised on that stuff. My parents are also huge Beatles fans, and they got me into the Beatles. My dad was like a rocker, like so he was all about Led Zeppelin and Floyd and stuff like that. And so he, you know, I was raised on all that kind of stuff. But as far as when I started getting into music when I was a kid, it was mostly like, yeah, because it was Green Day and it was, you know, so it's like a lot of punk kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my parents were always super about it. They liked all those bands. Like you know, my dad actually was into Nirvana before I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I remember when Kurt died, we were watching like MTV News.
Yes, I remember that.
And I remember my dad told me like, "Yo, this is the John Lennon of your generation." But in '94, at that point, I was still listening to like Death Row Records stuff and like rap, and because I was really into rap, you know. And he was like, "This is like a historical moment, like, you know." And then shortly after that, I got my first Nirvana stuff. And
yeah. So your parents, are they from San Francisco originally, or did they move there?
Yeah, my mom's a Mission native. She was born there, 25th in York, I want to say, in 1957. And then my dad is from Nicaragua, and he moved to SF in 1965.
Was it just because of like whatever tumultuous stuff the U.S. was probably doing in Central America and South America at the time?
I don't really know about the '60s that well, but I definitely knew that like my whole family, that side of the family, they all moved up here in the '60s, and yeah, and we've been here ever since. Yeah. We still have family there and stuff. I actually was just there with my family. I visited there for the first time, and it was incredible. It was like time of my life, man.
Oh wow, what'd you do?
Yeah,
I don't really know much about Nicaragua.
We did family history stuff, man. We went to my dad's old block where he was born, and we went to my grandfather's grave, you know, and yeah, and we just, you know, ate really good food and just, you know, hung out, and it was great, man.
Yeah.
I want to go back already.
My historical knowledge isn't like super robust. I just know that like starting with like in 1956, I want to say in Guatemala, the U.S. CIA started like fucking with everyone, you know.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure.
And so like, I mean, obviously like what I'm sure by like what the 60s they started to fuck around with every country south of Mexico.
Yeah.
That's just like I'm just guessing and stuff. I'm like, you know.
Uh-huh.
But so your dad moves up here in the 60s. Like what's going on in San Francisco? That's like prime hippie time, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it totally was. And so shortly after moving here, some of the first people they met were people like Pablo Tellez from Malo and Chapito from Santana, because they were also Nicaraguan.
Mm-hmm.
And so so the community was forming, and a big part of that whole scene from back in the day is a lot of Nicoya people. And that's like, you know, it's part of history, dude. I mean, that Mission scene took the world by storm. You can go anywhere in the world and hear Santana. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pretty amazing history, and I've always been really proud of that aspect of like my family's history and stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So
they had their own scene, man. It's like the way we had punk going to Gilman. It's like they had their shit in the Mission, and it was their scene, you know?
Yeah. So there's like Nicaraguan expat scene that forms there. That kind of
it was all it was all Latinos. Tequila was all Filipino. They're an incredible band. They had a LP, I think, on Epic or in '72, and they were interesting because they played Latin rock, but they were all Filipino guys, and they're all from the Mission. Tequila, yeah, and yeah, so it's just a really cool scene, man. You know, like my uncles, they played the Fillmore West. You know what I mean? Like Bill Graham, all that kind of thing. You know, it's really cool.
Yeah. It's also it's interesting though in America though what gets like the historical kind of what gets written down in history is more of the like the white hippie people in San Francisco hate Ashbury over everything else. Yet when you go anywhere else in the world, it's like Santana and the Mission that probably has more precedence.
Yeah, probably because a lot of the summer love bands they're a little strange, you know, like, and the other thing is that a lot of those bands are transplant people. So they're not like straight SF, like, you know what I mean? Grateful Dead are like straight Bay Area, like straight up.
Yeah.
Flaming Groovies are straight Frisco natives. But like, you know, stuff like Quicksilver, I don't really know, you know? And maybe, and you know, like Jefferson Airplane, I don't really know. But the Latin rock scene is as respected as the kind of Golden Gate Park, you know, Dead, Jefferson, Moby Grape, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like your parents are part of this.
Yeah.
And then when do they get together?
They started dating when they were teenagers. So my dad lived across the street from my mom on Whitney Street in SF. And they've been dating since they were teenagers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They were young, for sure. High school.
And they have pretty big families. Like you come from, like you said, you had like 4 uncles in that band. Oh
yeah. My dad's side of the family is humongous, huge. My mom's side of the family, my mom is half Irish, half Mexican. It's not as big, but my dad's side of the family is like massive.
So you have like a pretty big, like you have like a really big extended family when you're growing up.
Oh yeah, big time, yeah. And it was like my older cousins and stuff were the first people to like kind of show me music and stuff. And my older cousins were like into rap and stuff, so that's what I was listening to in the early '90s. You know, like when like Tupac, "I Get Around" came out, and obviously like The Chronic. But the funny thing is that like albums like The Chronic, I'd have to go to someone's house to listen to it because my parents wouldn't let me have any tapes that had the parental advisory sticker on it. So I had like Dre Day, the radio maxi single, and I had like Snoop, like Gin and Juice, the radio like maxi single and stuff, but I didn't have like Doggy Style. Like, I had to go to a friend's house to listen to Doggy Style in '93, right. You know? Yeah.
Were they religious at all, or was it just like, You know, they're like, this is not appropriate.
We grew up Catholic, but the thing is with like the thing is like the area where my both of like my parents are from, the church was kind of like the center of the community kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the church was always more of a community thing, and there was never any like weird religious like shit ever. Like there was no strict like when I was listening to satanic metal when I was 14, like they just thought it was funny. You know what I mean? They weren't tripping on Slayer. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And they weren't tripping on Merciful Fate. They were cool with it because it's just music. And I mean, being from SF though, you gotta understand it's like you're just open minded, like, you know, being like it's an open minded community for the most part, you know? So like the weird stuff about like church and things like that, we didn't really have that at ours. Not too much, you know, like not at all actually, you know.
Interesting. Like the stuff that like alienated me from other people growing up in Pennsylvania, you know, like listening to music that no one else listened to. It's interesting for you. Like that was not a point of separation. Like maybe it was like that you like listened to something different, but like you didn't feel judged for listening to Slayer or whatever.
No, never. No. Yeah,
So,
no. Yeah. It was like being around certain family members, you might not necessarily want to be wearing a shirt with an upside down cross on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, you know, but other than that, you know, it's fine.
Right. But if you had a shirt with like Eddie the Head or something on that, no one would care.
Not really. No. My Uncle Guillermo, rest in peace. He was a guitar player and he played in the church, and, you know, he knew I was jamming Metallica and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, whatever." It was funny to them, you know.
Sure.
Kids will be kids kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was like he was strict, and he was really religious and stuff, but it was also like he just thought it was funny kind of thing. I thought, you know, I like me wearing a Metallica shirt or something when I'm a little kid, you know. I don't know. Yeah.
But it's also like I like that better, like that you grew up with community, as opposed to like the bad part of religion is just like we're gonna follow these rules no matter what. Versus, hey, these are, you know, some of them are things that are like very important ethically, but really this is about building a community. And if you're using the rules to alienate people, that's not really what it's for.
I just think my parents were just always open-minded people, so you know, nothing was really pushed on us that hard, you know. My parents would always let us be ourselves, and yeah, it was cool, man. Like I'm lucky that it wasn't like super strict Catholic household and I wasn't allowed to listen to stuff or whatever, you know, like I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. So is there anything that you are pushing against? Is it just like the suburban area that you like want to kind of push against, or like what's going on?
Yeah, I definitely hated Millbrae. And then at a certain point, we kind of started embracing it because when we started playing in bands, there was people that would like lie. When we started playing shows, there would be bands from like Hillsboro, which is like a super rich area in the hills of the West Bay. And it's like millionaires live there. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, there'd be like a shitty band from Hillsboro, and they would lie and say they were from the city because they were embarrassed to say they're from Hillsboro. And me and my friends kind of realized that like we're not going to lie that we're like from this town. And so we just started repping it all the time. But the thing is, we had influences there because the West Bay like underground scene, like when we found that when we were kids, it like changed our whole lives. So we were like, oh, we don't have to lie and say we're from the city. We can say we're from here and it's all good.
Yes, I get it. Yeah. You can have some pride in that. Like I went to school in Pittsburgh at University of Pittsburgh, and the music scene in Pittsburgh is amazing and like that. And people want to rep Pittsburgh because it had like, there's just this feeling of community around it. I think that I thought was like, when I found it, that's what I found to be like really really important was how welcoming the community was.
Man, I love Pittsburgh, man. I got homies there for years, man.
Yeah, great music scene.
Um,
Still great music scene.
yeah, I played. I remember one time I played. You ever go to Mr. Roboto?
Of course, yes, of course.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
played
yeah.
Mr. Roboto a ton of times. I love the like there were like, and also like great punk places. I don't know if you ever played the Peach Pit, which was just like this punk basement in like that's like in South Oakland, which is like just like south of the University of Pittsburgh, and like tons of like it was a punk basement in the house that was rented by these guys, and they formed a band called Crucial Unit.
Dude, here's the thing. I know the Crucial Unit guys, and get this. We booked Crucial Unit in Millbrae at my homie's house back in the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I go back with Pittsburgh, man. Like I know those dudes. I know hey, you know Intense Andy?
Yes, I remember him. I don't know him
Yeah.
very well, but yes.
That's my homie right there. Yo, man, I know Steve Anderson. Shout out Vinny, shout out Reeves, shout out Matt McDermott. I love Pittsburgh, man.
So I'm just wondering if like, you know, you find this community, you know, is it that it's just there's all this music that you like that you finally found other people who are playing it? Is it that there is like, because what I'm getting is like you grew up with this sense of community with your family already, and also around the church, right? And then you find this other scene that also has community, and I'm wondering if that's like part of the appeal.
You know, it definitely, when we found DIY, it felt like we were like raised to find it. You see what I'm saying? Because when you're 10 years old and you get Green Day and you get Rancid and you get Op Ivy, it's like eventually you're gonna find your way to Gilman. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then we grew up in Gilman. We grew up in these DIY like shows, and then, you know, by the time you're 16 years old, you're in that scene. You know what I mean? And you're playing shows with these bands, you know, and you realize like you're part of this DIY community. Yeah. I think that was the most important thing in my life, was finding that. And I definitely think just the bands we listened to as kids kind of like prepped us for it, you know?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like playing music in Pittsburgh was the thing that taught me like you can just have an idea and go do it. You can have an idea for a band and go play a show. You know, you can just do it. You don't have to wait for someone to give you permission, which is what I had been. My whole life up to that point had been waiting for like someone to give me permission to do something.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely opened our eyes to the possibilities of things when we were kids, because that's the thing about DIY, dude. It just makes everything so possible. Because when you're a kid, you're like listening to fucking Eddie Van Halen or whatever. And you're like, dude, I'll never be able to be in a band. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids at school were like, yo, like, how do we get like that didn't get into the underground shit like we did? They were trapped. Like to this day, they're like, yeah, I got my new band and we're trying to network and get our shit out there, you know, trying to get signed, you know, like you're trying to get signed and fucking, you know, you like get a gig on the county fair and they're like, yeah, we're playing the fair, like bragging, you know? Yeah. But meanwhile, we put out our first fucking vinyl record when we were fucking 16. You know what I mean? And we just thought they were clowns because they didn't realize that, I guess like punk or just underground music was too amateur to these guys that we grew up with, that like, you know, they were pro. They wanted to be pro. They wanted to be like fucking goddamn, I don't know, maybe like Ingve or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it was like, it's the two different paths, right? And the one path is like, I want to do this because I think there's some clout involved in it. And I think I can, and like, I'm going to network and I'm going to do X, Y, or Z because I like the social cachet of saying I'm in a band that's signed to like a major record label or whatever, versus no, I want to play music and I like the community and I want people to hear my music because I want to connect with them.
Well, for us, it was like, these dudes would just like, they were into bragging. You know what I mean? They'd be bragging about their band and like kind of lying. You know what I mean? be like, yeah, we got some gigs lined up. Yeah, we're doing big shit, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, I have a fucking vinyl record under my belt already. And we never bragged about our shit because
Yep.
we were a DIY, like, we were part of the Bay Area punk community. Like it was that rock star attitude that we were like against. And it made
Yes.
us a lot more like people who brag suck. Fuck that. That's like dickhead behavior, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, are you creating an image or are you creating music? What are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you building?
Right.
Do
Right.
you think you had like an ambition to do anything else, or were you always just like, I want to play music, this is what I want to do with my life?
It was the only thing I was ever good at. It was the only thing I could like focus on. Like I was so bad in school, dude. Straight S, dude. Straight S. I'm like a senior. I'm like a senior and all my classes are freshmen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
uh, but again though, was anyone else in my high school fucking putting out records? No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I just found this other universe and I just became fully immersed in it, And it was a lot of bands from the West Bay that influenced me to be that way. I want to give a shout out to this band from San Mateo called Los Rabbis and also the West Bay Coalition from Redwood City. Bands like Plutocracy, No Less, Spaz, and then that's the thing. It's like my first hardcore band, we met those dudes right away. And it's like you're meeting people that you look up to like right away. And that we realized the directness of what true underground, like DIY communities are like. You're over there, you're over there meeting your favorite band. Like I met the Spaz dudes when I was 16, dude, and I loved Spaz. Spaz changed my life,
Yeah.
So so I don't know. We were lucky, man, but I have to give it all to our older friends in Millbrae, the older dudes. Like we were in maybe freshman year of high school, and they were like graduated already, but they were showing us all the ill shit, and they kind of like, they kind of raised us in a way that we got into the good shit, and we were able to navigate doing music like in that way, in a sick ass way. At an early age, you know what I mean? But that's what you need, man. Like you need that older dude who's going to give you a mixtape that has everything from SSD to St. Vitus to whatever, like Gizm, like, you know what I mean? Like all this crazy stuff,
Yeah,
gotta hear that shit.
I do know this. You're describing, like, I think you're articulating something that I never thought of before, but I think what I loved about the Pittsburgh music scene was you're playing with your favorite bands. Like there's this band in 1985. I don't know if you ever heard them. Incredible. Just like this like weird, noisy post rock stuff. I don't even know how to really describe it, but like we would play shows with them and then like go to a party and hang out with them and you're peers with these people that you've admired for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. That shit happened immediately, man. And the other thing is like, dude, like going to my first punk and hardcore shows in the Bay Area, there was a place called Mission Records in the city. And there was a place, we all know about Gilman. And there was a place in Richmond called Burnt Ramen. And dude, at these places, I met my best friends to this day.
Yeah.
Like 20 years later, we're still best friends, And that's the power of the true underground and the true DIY community. And I feel like it's kind of lost nowadays because of social media and shit like that, like that, things are different now. They're not like they were. And things were so much tighter back then, dude. You could,
Well, we weren't so isolated. I think that's the thing. I think at least in the last couple of years with COVID, I feel very isolated because like I really don't go to see much any inside at least.
Yeah.
But like it does really feel like I've lost a sense of any kind of community because also like so much DIY shit or underground shit is closed down.
Yeah, for sure.
And losing those public spaces is
right.
Is, you lose these spaces where you're meeting everyone and seeing everyone. And that feeling that like you and I had in the 90s and the early 2000s is gone.
Right. Totally, man. Like, and it's fucked up. Yeah, it's sad, man. But
so
I think,
sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. No. You go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, like, was school just uninteresting to you, or
Oh yeah, dude. I'm an idiot, and I didn't pay attention to any of that shit. I didn't give a fuck, dude. I still don't give a fuck. I never went to college. Fuck any of that shit. I just do music, dude. You know?
yeah, no.
Yeah.
I was not judging at all. I was just like wondering, like, if it was just boring, or if it was just like you had like shitty teachers, or like what was going on.
Yeah, it was all that, you know? Like, um, I just wasn't interested at all, you know? And I wasn't good at it either. Like, you know, I was always failing classes and shit.
Yeah,
But I also like didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like I didn't care.
yeah.
Um,
But it's interesting because you are like very gifted musically, right? So like you do have aptitude. So I wish schools were a little more expansive and could like channel people's energies into, like, you're a brilliant guitarist, right? So like, why didn't they recognize that? Why are schools not more open to understanding the way different people have different kinds of intelligence?
but the thing is, though, at the same time, say if it was different and my school was like, "You're really good at guitar," like, and they kind of accepted me, that would feel super weird, and I don't think I'd be down. You know what I mean? Because like I hated everyone at school, and I hated the principal, and I don't want to know these people. You know, I want to get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So it's like if they were to be nice to me or something, that would probably weird me the fuck out. You know?
Yeah. It's probably good because, you know, in a sense, like a lot of schooling, especially like very traditional schooling, is just trying to channel your energy into becoming like a good kind of citizen of capitalism anyway. So, you know, having space to push back against that is probably better than if they had accepted you.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Os Rotten back in the day?
No, I think they were
A little
either
bit
not
before your time?
around when I
Yeah.
was in Pittsburgh, or I just wasn't in the circles where but they might have been a little bigger than like I was going to a ton of basement shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And they might have been a little bigger than that by the time I was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like I mostly went to Millvale Industrial Theater, MIT, which, if you know Manny, who like books a ton of shows in Pittsburgh, he ran that. Roboto, Peach Pit. Those were like mostly where I went and saw shows.
For sure. I want to give a shout out real quick to Jerry's Records, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squirrel Hill.
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Love that
Jerry's.
shop.
And what was the CD store? There was also a record shop in I don't even know what part of I don't even know what part of the town is anymore. Anyway, there were two. It was Jerry's and there was another great record shop. And those were the two like main places where you would like that were hubs for like music.
Yeah. For sure, man. Pittsburgh is sick, dude. I miss it over there, man. I want to say what's up to my boy Steve over there. It's been a minute. Last time I was there, we played
from Crucial Unit.
Nah, Steve, he was in that band Rot Shit. I played it last time I was there. I played a gig with his band called Chiller, and at Gooski's, man.
Yeah, Gooski's.
Yeah, dude.
Man,
yeah.
This is all a blast from the past.
Yeah.
We're right at the end. Can I ask like one last question? I'm
For
kind
sure.
of curious. You said your dad worked at UPS.
Yeah.
What did your mom do?
So my mom always worked at she does human resources, so she would always be working at like hospitals and schools my whole life.
Gotcha.
Yeah, human resources stuff. So like so right, like to this day she works at UC Hastings, the law school in SF.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did they ever have any kind of like thing they wanted you to do, or were they always really cool with like, all right, fuck school, I just want to pursue music?
They were always supportive of it, man. And they saw the results very fast. Because I think they're like, okay, yeah, every kid wants a guitar, like, you know, or whatever. But I just fucking, I did the shit. Like I said, dude, like when you show your parents a vinyl record you made when you're a child,
yeah,
they're like, oh shit, this fool's really doing it, you know?
That's awesome.
And so, Yeah, they've always been super supportive of it. They come, I come from a musical family, so they love it, man. They're really happy about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tony, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh
I'm such
man,
a
I had a
fan of your
blast talking
music.
to you, man. Yeah, we should keep in touch or something like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Please let me know when you're coming down to LA.
Oh, for sure, man. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Of course. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh 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 bye.